Are you looking for more out of your life? Do you need ideas on how to start new businesses and how to move forward in your own personal life? Well, guess what? You have come to the right radio show. At You Can Overcome Anything podcast show, you will learn and hear from many people from all walks of life who are sharing their challenges, their stories, the habits, and the mind shifts they had to overcome to become who they are today. On top, you will get a chance to connect and see how you can overcome anything by networking and learning about your next move through this radio show. I present to you our great speakers at You Can Overcome Anything podcast show with your host, Cesar Espino. Hey, welcome back. It is your friend Cesar Espino. You can find me at www.cesarrespino.com. And you are at your show, You Can Overcome Anything podcast show. Today I have a special guest. Her name is Eli Dobek. How are you, Eli?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I am doing wonderful. Thank you for being here and cannot wait to get this interview started and learn more about you,
Absolutely. I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. So before we dive in, let me just give our listeners a little bit of your background so they can get to know you. Okay.
Sure.
So Eli has a bachelor's and master's in psychology. She's a certified personal trainer, certified with precision nutrition. She was a college athlete, and sports and fitness has always been part of her life, which helped her maintain clarity in chaos. Taking care of her body and mind are the ways that she is able to be successful in life. And when she feels life is out of control, this is where she puts her focus on. She owns her own business and it is passionate to empower others to take responsibility and action towards reclaiming self-love and a fulfilled life. Awesome.
Yeah.
I love it. So tell me a little bit about your background. Where are you originally from, and let's talk about your background, where you came from.
Sure. I grew up just outside of Detroit, Michigan. Detroit, Michigan. And I ended up lived there with my family, both my parents and my sisters, through high school. And then I moved out of state to South Carolina for my bachelor's degree. My parents had basically said, if you're ever going to move, if you're ready, get out on your own. Like, college is the best time to do that because it's just a great experience to be able to choose wherever you want to go. Yeah. And there's an end date, right? You don't get stuck there because it ends eventually. So you can stay there if you want, or you can move somewhere else. And so I moved to a small town in South Carolina, which is very different than where I grew up, and just kind of enjoyed that life. I played soccer there. My last 2 years that I went to school there, and that was awesome. And so I really just kind of fell in love with psychology at that point. And through all of my school and my internships and things like that, I decided that I was going to pursue a master's degree. So I then moved to Arlington, Virginia, because I wanted to just experience now city life, right? I wanted to make sure I touched all my bases, so I knew what I wanted to do, and got my master's degree at Marymount University. And so I lived there for about 2 years, and then my mom actually got sick. She was still living in Michigan, and I decided that it was best for me and best for my family if I were to leave my life in Virginia and move back home to Michigan to be with them and to be able to help them through that.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's really where, a lot of your backstory starts, right? It came down to, that event in life for you where your mom had a tumor in her lungs.
Yep.
And then therefore you had to go back and really for you it was a tough situation there. From what I read here is that she really didn't make it out, right? From the surgery didn't go too good, and she stayed in the hospital trying to recover, yet she didn't recover from that and unfortunately passed away. And for you, that was one of your moments, right? And I want to know more about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That was a big life changer for me because it was never even on our radar because she wasn't sick for a significant amount of time, right? We found her cancer and she said, okay, I'm going to do surgery. This is going to be it. We're going to get this tumor out and then I'll go home and recover. And that was the plan. And they didn't anticipate anything further than that. Unfortunately, post-surgery, there were some complications, and she was then put on life support, and she stayed on life support for a while as we tried to heal her body, and as the doctors did everything that they could to heal her body and things like that, and recovery just wasn't possible. And so after some time in the hospital, we were visiting every day. My life had kind of been flipped upside down. I moved home and was traveling back and forth from the hospital every day. My sisters and my dad as well. Everybody was just kind of all of our eggs in this basket, and we were here to support her because we're very, very family oriented. And that is kind of what was kind of the changing point in my life, because I realized that like I loved psychology and that path was there, but in reality, like what I wanted to do was to take care of people like mentally and physically.
Got it.
Because as I was dealing with my own grief, like as most people do when they grieve, right? Their life changes significantly, and you go through this path of, there are all the 5 stages of grief, and through that, I kind of lost myself and was, not taking care of my body. And when I'm not taking care of my body, then my mind was feeling like junk. And from there, then like I couldn't provide, love and support in like a kind environment to those around me, which was always super important to me. So then I decided that it was time that I needed to get myself back together and focus on that health and fitness. And once my body started feeling better, my mind started feeling better, I was able to give more of myself to the people who needed me and to provide support for them as well. And then I decided that I just wanted to help other people who are struggling in this same way, where they kind of lose themselves and don't kind of know what those next steps are going to be to reclaim their identity and reclaim their life and be able to do all of the things that they want to do. And I think that all of that stems from first taking care of yourself.
Yeah, and you did mention that too. I was reading here that you definitely want to make sure you take care of yourself first before you help any other people. And I'm going to touch on that in a second. How old were you when your mom passed away?
That was in 2013, so I was 23.
Okay.
23?
Yeah. So 23. So and again, going back to you, dealing with your mom's grief and all that. Not only was that huge for you, you also you have to change your social life. You have to change in your financial life. Like it was really, not just one thing. It was more or less 3 or 4 different things that all hit at one point, which led to you not taking care of yourself, not taking care of your, your persona, right?
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah. And so at which point though, I mean, and I know you said you were talking about, well, I need to take care of myself first before I can help anybody else or take care of anybody else. Yet at which point did it really click in your head that you're like, you know what, I need to make a change? Like what was really the actual, and I don't know if there was, except if there was an actual trigger, what was that trigger that said, you know what, or that series of events that, you know what, I need to, either shape up or I'm going to go down the wrong path?
Right. I would say that it was just kind of the overwhelming feeling of like every single day was kind of feeling monotonous and the same. And it was sad. And it was like, I was angry and I was putting on a front essentially. And when I realized that I wasn't being true to myself and true to like the emotions that I was feeling, then I knew that I needed to, because the way that I was feeling isn't the way that I wanted other people to perceive me, because what was inside of me was pretty ugly and I didn't want people to see that. And so when I realized that what I was, that it wasn't matching up, it was exhausting, right? It's exhausting to keep up that front. And I was just running out of, the ability to do it and to continue giving in that way that wasn't matching my insides. So what I needed to do was basically like clean up and figure
Hmm.
out how to get my inside to match what I wanted to give to other people and what I wanted other people to see.
Right. And what was the things that you did to help you step out of that mindset into something different? Was it, getting back to fitness and sports? Because I know you worked at a couple of places, but was it
Yeah.
that kind of led you back to that?
I think that helped. Absolutely. I started seeking out help, which I think is really important, like, finding mentorship and learning about
Mm,
it. And on a personal level, I did hire my own personal trainer at the time that just kind of helped me stay accountable.
mm,
And it made me, set appointments and make sure that I was getting to the gym. And because because I was always an athlete, if I was getting to like go work out and I wasn't performing well, then that was frustrating for me. So then I knew I had to clean up what I was eating in order to
mm.
fuel my body to perform better. So it was all kind of connected in regard that I wanted to fix my insides. So in order to do that, I needed to uh, feel good about myself. And so I did, self-help things. I worked on my own mindset, kind of flipping from self-sabotaging behaviors
Mm.
over to, um, making sure that I'm putting out like affirmations and putting out into the universe what I want to show and what I want to receive back. And so, there was a lot of that going on. And yeah, it was just a lot of just self not diagnosing, but like self-assessing
Got it.
and then kind of putting the puzzle together, which was because I had the psychology background, like that was a little bit easier for me than it might be for other people because I knew where to look and
Right.
different theories and things like that already that was going to help me on that path and on that journey.
Yeah, and you did those things to help you through your own journey, and I'm assuming, and you correct me if I'm wrong, you were doing that because you wanted to step out of, that path that you were,
Hmm.
going on to really just help you become a better person. Yet
Yeah.
that now turns out to be that's kind of one of the things that you do now. Like you're also
Hmm.
it kind of from that something grew, which is not only are you trying to empower people, which is one of the things that you want to do is to be able to empower people so they can take action toward reaching self-love and fulfill life, right? And that came from that experience, right?
Hmm. Yep, exactly.
Right. And so
Yes.
so
Yeah,
so and
because had
yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
oh, I was just gonna say, had I not had that experience and that like desire to change and improve my own self and like been on my own journey, I wouldn't have the blueprint that I now coach.
Right.
I used all of those experiences and what worked and what didn't work for me in order to help other people who are on a similar path.
Right. And then you worked for a few places within the fitness and sports or whatever, I guess industry, right? That didn't work out though too good for you. There was a lot of I guess negative aspects and some of that to an extent. So I want to know more about that because then from there, then you went in there for a reason, right? And that
Mhm.
didn't work out, and then from there you came out and say, okay, you know what? I need to do my own business and become my own boss. So I want to learn about that journey too.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So, um, as you had mentioned before, um, I had, some financial struggles and things like that with the move and changing jobs. And so, what I ended up doing once I got kind of everything settled, I had a few like odds and ends jobs as nannies and things like that, but I settled into um, a full-time office job as the manager of a home care company. And
Mm,
that started really great. And it was amazing because I was able to help people that really needed it. And I was able to affect a lot of lives in that regard, both my employees and the people that they were serving. And simultaneously, I was also working part-time at a small studio nearby my house. And so that was a gym, and I was doing personal training before and after my full-time job. So I was
Okay.
working a lot of hours, which was
Yeah.
exhausting.
Yeah.
Um, and what made it even more exhausting was that the unfortunately, both work environments were not the healthiest and most beneficial for me. So
Mm.
there was a lot of kind of turmoil in them where the owners or the people above me, the management above me, were kind of very stuck in their ways. And even though there were they would always ask for suggestions and want to improve their ways when I would suggest things or when we would try to implement change. It was always kind of shot down and just in this like negative spiral of just kind of were in their own kind of self-sabotaging behaviors, right? We want to get better, but we're not going to let ourselves get better. We want to get better, but we're not.
Yeah.
And and you see that a lot in not only in businesses but in people as well, right?
Right.
The fear of changing is greater than the fear of staying the same. And so you kind of get stuck in this just like kind of okay space instead of, really pushing forward and taking some risks and changing and growing to be better. So after a couple of years of just kind of that messy situation, I decided that it was best for me to go off on my own. And at that time, I started my own one-on-one personal training business,
Mm.
which eventually grew into an online coaching business as well. So now I do both
Wow,
in
that's
person and
awesome.
online. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And you said something that that I want to elaborate further. A lot of times we as people, and again, it could be business, could be personal, it really in anything, right? We as people tend to uh be fearful of the unknown, right? So we
Mm-hmm.
we are feared to be uncomfortable, and we rather be comfortable with what we know to be true, even if it's hurting us. And so you got to be able to take that and kind of change those dynamics and said, yeah, this might be, it might seem from the surface a bit as uncomfortable and also fearful, yet maybe taking this risk is going to be good. And so, that's kind of what you did. On top of that, a lot of times we have to start seeing a risk, even if you perceive as you might have failed, is not a failure. It's actually a lesson. You've learned from that, and you learn how to do it
Yes.
differently, right? And
Yeah.
so I want to know about your ups and downs, if you had any of them, and what were some of those lessons that you might have learned from that maybe the people that are listening to can say, oh man, this is awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. So I sat in that space of fear for quite a while, not knowing if opening up my own business was the right move, right? I don't have a background in business. I don't have that formal education. I didn't have any experience doing it. I had been a manager, and that was the kind of the highest that um, I guess my career had gotten
Mm.
in a number of different fields and things like that. And so, it was scary. And luckily I had the support of, my loved ones who were like, you're strong, it will be enough. If it doesn't work out, whatever, we try something else. And
Mm.
having that support in regards to like, give it a go, and if it doesn't work we can find something else to do, was really kind of the permission that I needed to be able to jump and take that risk. And so some of my ups and downs, of course, is as a business owner and being the only person running the business and doing all of the things, um there's a lot of, I don't, like self sabotage or overthinking that I do and that I'm trying to get out of. And that's like one of my biggest hurdles is that um, as I'm building new products or new items and new things to offer, I want them to be perfect, even though
Mm.
I know that, there's no such thing as perfect and it's not going to be perfect until you try it and you do it and you can fix it and keep going back. And so, um, you know, not waiting for that perfect moment or that perfect thing is really important. That's my my biggest push for myself right now is to just like do it. Like it's not going to be perfect. It's not, maybe it won't even be great, but like throw it out there, see what happens, and then you can adjust. But if you never put it out there in the first place, you can't adjust. You never know if it will be great or if it will not, because you never gave yourself the opportunity to do that. So I feel like that's my biggest lesson that I'm still working to overcome. I do a lot of deep breathing, and I'm like, okay, just go and just put it out there, in order to stop myself from stopping myself, I guess.
Right. Yeah, no, and it comes down to just, I think you said it best. It comes down to really just taking action and just
Just doing
doing
it.
something, right?
Hmm.
Whatever it is, doing something. And I can relate two stories to that. Number one, it might be very similar to, like, if you think about it, the software company, right? Their business is more or less in that model. Or even, if you think about your iPhone or something like that, you have
Yeah.
iPhone 1, whatever, iPhone, I don't know what, right, 11, 12, whatever number it is. The reason why they keep coming up with new versions is because the first one, probably they found something that wasn't quite working, and so now they went to the next one. So it's the same thing with life, or anything you do.
Exactly.
Put out
Exactly.
something, and if that something doesn't work, then put out something 2.0 or 3.0 or
Hmm.
4.0, whatever the case may be, right? So that's the other one. And then the other thing too is, what you mentioned, in line of, putting content and putting information, is I do believe that you have to put it out into the universe to be able to get something back, or to be able to get a response back.
Yeah.
If you keep it inside of you, well, that's good maybe for a little bit of time, yet what is that going to do if you're not
Hmm.
throwing your potential out into the universe, right? And that's how I see it.
Absolutely.
So in terms of your and the other thing, actually, by the way, is you don't have to
Mhm.
have a business background or the formal education to start something, because you obviously a proven system that you can do
Mhm.
it if you have the drive and the passion to do that, right?
Absolutely. Yep. Trial and error, and you'll get there.
Right, exactly. Now, so you work on a one-on-one basis with people. Like, what is your program about? Is it just about fitness? Is it about some of the psychology that you've studied that you
Hmm.
kind of intertwine with that? Tell me more about that.
Absolutely. So I am I try to take a full focus approach on everything. So not only are we working on, fitness and in the gym and strength and making sure our body is moving in the you know, proper way and things like that, but I also focus on nutrition because, like I had mentioned earlier, right? If you're not fueling your body to perform, it's not going to feel good. And then thirdly, I also really focus on mindset, and that positive mindset and growth mindset, always being ready and willing to assess yourself and whether it's good or bad, right? A lot of people like to assess themselves and be like, oh, yeah, I'm so awesome at this. And so this is what I'm going to focus on. And I believe that you should absolutely do more of what works and do more of those things, but also take those self assessments and see where you struggle or what might be a roadblock or sabotaging what you want to achieve,
Hmm.
and then put in effort to kind of hone in on that and build it up to be something better, right? Use the tools that you already have for the things that work and apply them to the things that you need to get better at. So that is, in regards to mindset and the way that you view food and the way that you view yourself. um, you know Having self-compassion and showing grace for yourself, as we're all just learning, right? Nobody's perfect.
Right.
Everybody's on this journey, and it's ugly and messy, and some days are great and some days aren't great, and you just have to be able to understand that not only do you give that grace to other people and understand that they might have some stuff going on in their life, but so do you. And so on days that you're not feeling your best, you just have to chalk it up as today is not the greatest day, but I'm going to do what I can. And because I want to have consistent action and consistent progress over the course of time instead of aiming for perfection. Because if we aim for perfection, like, you're not going to get anywhere, right?
Right. Yeah. And so
Because you're not going to be perfect.
right. And you know what, with that, I feel that, I would rather not be perfect. And I don't know if you can ever reach a point of perfection. And if you do, I think you have to reassess that.
Right.
Right. Because I believe that, it's like anything. Like, if you feel like you've already reached a level of perfection, then there's nothing else for you to go after that point. Like if
Mhm.
you feel in your mind, I'm perfect at all levels, then there's no growth and you stop growing. And then if you stop
Mhm.
growing, then you might end up losing the desire of many different aspects, and we have seen that time after time where people have gotten to the point where like, well, there's nothing else for me to do here in this earth. Why still be here, kind of thing, right? And it can actually take you to a path of depression or
Mhm.
different aspects or drugs or things like that. So I feel like you always gotta continue to grow. If you reach a target of comfortable level, then now set a new target, a higher
Mhm.
target, right?
Exactly.
So your program is a 12-week program,
Mhm.
and a lot of it is regaining control of your life by overcoming the pain and turbulence caused by the devastating life changes that are going through you,
Mhm.
right? So, if you don't mind me asking, what are some of the people that have come to you in terms of their current situation? Like what kind of background do they have? Because one thing that I learned too is that before talking to now a lot of people that are in this kind of same business as you are, I
Mhm.
always thought about fitness and probably even going to the gym or all that kind of stuff, just about that. It's just like I'm gonna go there, build some muscles, lose some weight, and that's the end of it. And that's how I
Mhm.
thought about it. I've learned now that that's not the case. A lot of people like you focus a lot on the mind, focus a lot on
Mhm.
helping uh, remove barriers or even those kind of traumas that people might have had in the past. Which is good. I love that. So what are some of the cases or people that come to you with, that they're dealing with in their lives that you've been able to impact them positively?
Absolutely. So one on my one-on-one clients, she was actually like one of my very first clients that I ever in my new business model when I started on my own. She was one of the first people to call me and say like, I need help. And she was she's in her 60s, works full time. She's a single woman who had her father had passed away, and the and her whole family lives in Brazil, and she
Mm,
lives here for work. And so she was dealing with this really significant grief and was really depressed and things like that. And so she was struggling to process through that. And then on top of that, she also was in a really terrible car accident that really put a lot of pain and strain on her body. So she was fearful of moving and lifting things because of the pain that she had endured previously and the way that it had affected her body. So we had worked together, and we still work together, but
mhm,
she has been able to come out of that depression. And her family, when they video chat in Brazil, have told her that like they can see it in her face, her skin is lighting up, and that she just is like exuding so much more joy in her life now that she is feeling comfortable with her own body. So she went from like being afraid of lifting up a ream of paper, which is 4 or 5 pounds. She wouldn't even do that at work, to now she's like deadlifting in the gym and
wow.
bench pressing and doing all sorts of amazing things that she never in a million years thought that her body would be able to do. So through that, she's gained a boatload of confidence in herself. She's lost inches around her waist and gotten really comfortable with her um, relationship with food. And so just all over from when we started 2 years ago to now, we have gone through just like so many gigantic transformations. And like you said before, we hit one barrier or like one goal. And then she was like, wait a second, like now we can do this. And now we can do this. And now we can do this. And they just keep stacking up. And she's just out of this world, is amazing. Some of my other clients that in this 12-week program, my online coaching program that I'm doing, have come from backgrounds. So one came from she was in a job for a really long time and ended up just hitting kind of her breaking point and like tossing her keys on her boss's desk and walking out. And she was management there and had been there and since the company had started, and it was just a really toxic work environment. And
Mm,
she was giving so much of herself and just getting beat down and beat down and beat down. Um, and she just couldn't handle the way that the business was being run. There was a lot of immoral things happening that just wasn't on her, like didn't line up with the life that she wanted to lead. It was painful for her to be in that situation. So she just left, and she then was feeling lots of guilt about, leaving all of her employees out to dry. Like, I left this situation, but all of them are still there. And so she is working on processing through kind of that guilt and that big change. Like it is,
Hmm.
almost grief through, that big loss. It was a big chunk of her life and now it's different. And so that's scary. And we're processing through those things. Um, some of my other clients really just are focusing in on their performance and like almost the fear about what is going on right now in the world, right, with this
Yeah.
quarantine. And you don't know what is going to happen, and so there's this fear of change, or people have lost their jobs and they don't know what their next steps are. And so we just work through overcoming all of those barriers and kind of dealing with what the situation is at hand and looking at it as a growth opportunity instead of, a something that is impossible to act upon.
Yeah, yeah, and I like what you say here. Processing grief in change is about not only mourning the loss, but getting to know yourself as a different person.
Yeah.
And I love that because that's definitely one of the things that we as people, even going through this, one of your trainings, people can definitely define and really look deep down what is their true, what kind of people they are, right? And really finding that person that might have gotten lost in that transition
Hmm.
of mourning or going through a devastating loss, right? And
Right.
that's one thing that you help people kind of get out of them
Hmm.
and bring it back to life, right?
Right. Because you're not going to be the same person, right? Everything in your life is like, your life is a series of all of its pieces. So when something changes, like you're going to change as well. And you can take that as an opportunity to grow and be better, or
Mhm.
you can take it and kind of sulk in it and just feel like part of you is missing. And so instead of, I try to instill in my clients and in myself, right? Instead of part of you being missing, like honor that piece that caused the change, whether it is the loss of a loved one or the loss of a job, right? Honor it and make sure that it helps you become the person that you want to be, right? Your loved one who passed away, like wouldn't want to see you miserable and sad and angry and, stuck in this like one note job. They would want to see you out and living life and succeeding and having a good time and loving yourself and loving other people. So I would try to help everybody, you know, you still have you're still going to have a relationship with that person or with that thing that has passed on or is no longer in your life, because it's one of the building blocks to your new life, your
Mm.
different life.
Right. Yeah, and I like what you said here too. With that in mind, every big change, every experience of grief changes the way you live and shape the person you become, but
Hmm.
it does not define you.
Right.
And I love that again because again we go back to that principle that the way I always put it is that where you came from or what was your circumstances at one point should not define the person you are to become in the near future, right?
Yep.
And really comes down to your actions, which we talked about. Take some action, do
Mhm.
something. It really
Yep.
comes down to what you've done too, which is work on yourself, work on the mind, work on everything's going on in the inside of you so that you can take that to the outside. And it comes down to a lot of those things. So actually, even with that, I want to know, obviously you are a coach, you are helping people, you're essentially mentoring people through, whether it's through their not only through their fitness, also through their mindset and things like that. Do you yourself have a mentor that helps you right now at this moment?
I do. Yep. I
Okay.
currently am working with a business coach because
Okay.
that is where a lot of my self growth right now is pushing through that. So I want to make sure that I'm doing the right things as best as I can. And she's amazing. She really also focuses a lot on mindset and not being afraid to take action and to do it, because if people don't know what you're doing, they can't be your customer, right? If
Mm.
And so if people don't know your story and they don't know what you can help them, if they don't know that like what you can provide to them, then they can't seek you out. So I'm working with a business coach right now. I worked with a nutrition coach for
Mm.
quite a few months leading up to my wedding, because that was, what my main focus was at that point, was, feeling really confident and feeling really good up before my wedding. And then I've had plenty of coaches in the past in regards to my fitness. I've had my own
Yeah.
personal trainers, as well as, through athletics and things like that. And every single one of them has taught me something that I've been able to keep and implement in my life and continue pushing forward with.
Yeah, and that's one thing that I learned too, is that a lot of times, very successful people, even though they might be in the business of helping, mentoring, teaching other people, them themselves have a coach or a mentor that is also helping them. So I think
Hmm.
the lesson here, or the message, is that, you know, you can teach and help other people. At the same time, you also got to keep continue to work on yourself and grow your own craft. And I do that too. I have several mentors in the different aspects of my life.
Hmm.
Same thing, because again, you're always going to be learning. I go back to my point, is that if you stop growing, if you stop learning, if you feel like you reach perfection, I feel like you're doing it wrong. You have to go back and continue to invest in yourself. Just like you're helping other people, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I have a couple more questions for you,
Sure.
before I let you go. And one of the things that I want to know is, what are some of the habits you do on a day-to-day basis to help you stay in a positive state of mind?
Oh, yeah. So I start my day. I have a morning routine. It only
Okay.
takes like 5 or 10 minutes, but it puts me on like the path to have like a good and happy day. So I have my morning routine, which involves some deep breathing, putting on some good music, while I start my coffee, and like as it's brewing, I do 5 minutes of just movement. So I stretch, or, you know, do some sort of exercise for about 5 minutes to get my blood flowing, get my brain working. Um, and then from there, that's kind of the start to my day. There's a few other things in there, but
Right.
that varies from day to day depending on what is going on. But for the most part, right, I start with, relaxing my mind, getting ready for the day, and getting moving, because those are the most important things for me to have a successful day. Some of the other really important habits that I have, I do, I time block my day, which I think is a really
Mm.
amazing skill that I'm still working on, but it has helped me immensely over the course of the last year, in order to make sure that I'm prioritizing the right things and making sure that I have time for all of the things that I want to do, and all of the things that I need to do.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I love that,
Yeah.
and definitely, if the people that are listening to us or seeing this, if you don't have a routine, definitely get one, because I can tell you, every single person that has wanted to reach higher levels, they have something, and start with something. It can be something small. It doesn't have to take, by the
Hmm.
way, 2 3 hours. It can literally be like 5 10 minutes. A simple,
Hmm.
just sit, relaxing, and just reflecting on the day before, and what you want to accomplish today is more than enough, right? So,
Exactly. Yep.
well, that's awesome. So, if people wanted to connect with you, where can they find you?
They can find me on Instagram, and they can find me on Facebook. Both are just like slash Eli Dobek. And yeah, I'd love to have y'all follow me. That'd be fun.
Yeah, definitely. And then you got to check out her 12-week program too. So definitely shout out to Eli for that. So my last question for you is, you've given us a lot of great nuggets, and I want to get one last one from you. What would be a one advice that you can give our listeners and viewers, that they can overcome anything in their life, and they can start today and implementing that one advice?
My advice would be to just take action. Just
Hmm.
do something. It doesn't matter how big or how small, but just take action towards it every single day.
Yeah, awesome. No, I love
Simple,
it.
simple as that.
Yeah, definitely. And it is really that simple. It's just do it. You have to do it. You definitely have to just take action. Awesome. Eli, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate you coming on to the show, and really had a great time speaking to you.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It was a blast.
Yeah, definitely. And for the rest of you guys, please do me a favor. Make sure you subscribe, you like, you share, you comment on this video, and stay tuned for the next episodes at You Can Overcome Anything podcast show. Have a good day and talk to you next time. Bye. Hi. We know the importance of moving your freight from one place to another and moving it on time. We are Leon's Freight Services, and our top priority is to bring you multiple logistic solutions. We specialize on port drayage in Los Angeles, LTL and FTL transportation, airport pickups and deliveries, and full services in contract logistics, warehouse, and transload. We at Leon's Freight Services are a one-stop shop, giving our customers and business partners more logistics solutions. Contact us at www.leonsfreight.com or at 310-763-0013, and one of our business development associates will reach out to you and help you with your logistics needs. Thank you for having me today. I am so glad you tuned in to this podcast. You can find me at Spreaker.com, where you can like and subscribe. And to learn more about myself and my services, you can find me at www.cesarrespino.com, or you can also find me at Facebook under Cesar R. Espino. Once again, thanks for joining me. I am looking forward to having you at the next episode, and know that you truly can overcome anything.